What's the one act against you that crossed a line you couldn't come back from? I'd worked at the same marketing firm for 7 years. I poured every ounce of creativity, every weekend, every extra hour into projects, always aiming for promotion to creative director. My boss, Lena, had always praised my ideas. She told me I was ready, just needed a final push. When the role opened, I was sure I'd earned it. I stayed late refining strategies, preparing presentations, leaning on Lena's support. Then I found out. She pushed HR to hire her friend's girlfriend instead. Someone unqualified, but named Sarah, who had just been let go from another company. Lena told me it was better for team cohesion. That night, I stumbled home in disbelief. I'd betrayed my own pride, dropped everything for a position now handed to someone else. But the bigger blow was knowing Lena orchestrated it, using my hope and energy as leverage. She saw me as a tool, and when my expectations didn't align with her agenda, I was discarded. It felt like being erased, unacknowledged. I left the next day, but the betrayal haunted me. I realized that ambition, even shared ambition, can mask self-interest. And some wounds, born from broken promises, don't heal. They teach you to keep your guard always up. When my Aunt Lisa died, she was my mentor. She taught me to write, to believe in myself, to chase dreams. She planned her memorial with detail, asked me to lead the eulogy. I prepared for months, collecting memories, rehearsing. 2 days before her funeral, I overheard my uncle and cousin whispering, "We don't want him speaking. Too sentimental." At first I thought they were joking. They weren't. On the funeral day, my name was removed from the bulletin. Another cousin offered to speak instead. The betrayal stung deeper than the grief itself. Not losing her, but being denied the chance to honor her memory. They replaced me with someone else for their comfort. I left midway, unable to contain the mixture of grief and rage. I never spoke to them again. Because sometimes removing a voice in grief turns love into silence, and that's unforgivable. It was the final quarter of our championship basketball game. I'd trained relentlessly for 6 years, with hopes of earning a college scholarship. My best friend, Marcus, was my teammate and roommate. We had worked together all season, encouraged each other through injuries and setbacks. I trusted him like a brother. With 10 seconds left and us ahead by 1 point, the coach put us both on the court. I got the ball at the 3-point line. The buzzer was seconds away. I looked for Marcus, but he'd drifted away, too far, out of play. Suddenly, an opposing player slammed into me and the ball flew loose. They stole it, scored, and we lost. After the game, tears and frustration all around. I went to the locker room and saw Marcus celebrating with our coach. My heart sank. Later, I overheard him saying, "If he had passed it to me, I could have hit the shot. He didn't trust me." It wasn't just my fault. He abandoned me. He let me carry the pressure alone and then acted surprised. Worse, he gloated that I had failed him. He never apologized. That betrayal cut deeper than loss. It erased every late-night practice session, every shared dream. Trust was shattered, and I couldn't rebuild it. To this day, I can't watch a basketball game with him, because some losses aren't just points on a scoreboard. They're fractures in friendship you can't glue back together. We had a savings trust since I was a kid, money accumulating from grandparents, meant for college. When I turned 18, the trustee, my Aunt Jen, invited me over to sign documents. It felt official, celebratory. But when I arrived, she sat me down and said, "I spent it. Used it to help your cousin start a business." My trust fund was gone. No warning, no explanation, no restitution. She began crying. I thought it would come back in business profits. She promised to arrange payments. But she never did. My college loans sent bills directly from her name. I watched my cousin's business thrive while I worked 3 jobs to pay for tuition. What made this unforgivable wasn't the theft. It was the betrayal of family bond, the financial seeds planted only to be uprooted without apology. And heaping gas on it, she refused to see me as anything other than an inconvenience. The money was gone. But my trust in family was shattered. I stopped believing in people connected by blood. My dad and I had a tradition. Every Friday we'd watch a classic film together. He'd show up at my dorm, popcorn in hand, with that familiar grin that made everything normal. He'd say, "It's just us, champ," and we'd laugh and argue and rewind bad lines. Then he got promoted and moved into a bigger house. Work hours grew. Friday night visits stopped. I asked him why. He said, "You're busy. I thought I'd give you space." Space. I was exhausted, lonely, heartbroken. But I believed him. Until I saw the black Audi in the driveway every Friday afternoon. He didn't make time because he didn't want to. A broken promise is never just broken. It's a message. You are no longer worth it. We never talked about it. But the Friday with no call became another Friday with silence. Over time, the tradition died. The pain wasn't over his absence. It was that he chose to stop being my dad without saying a word. And that hurt more than any distance ever could. My wedding day should have been the happiest day of my life. I stood at the altar, heart pounding, believing in forever. But I didn't know that secretly, months before, my fiancé had slept with close friends. One of them a bridesmaid on that very day. I found out 2 days later from a voicemail. I'm so sorry, from my best friend, who whispered of everything. I forced myself through the first half of the reception, smiling through tears, keeping pace in the bouquet toss. But the most abominable moment was when I heatedly confronted him on our honeymoon. He didn't deny it. He looked at me and said softly, "You deserved someone better." I realized then, not at the betrayal, but at the lack of remorse. He'd broken our vows in body and spirit, yet closed his eyes, pretended he was doing me a favor. How could I forgive someone who emotionally evacuated before I even fell? The marriage ended less than a week later. Forgiveness felt impossible, not in words, but in the way he evacuated love from our relationship as easily as he erased morality. I spent years working on an art project, a short film that was deeply personal, shot in my hometown, involving everyone I loved. I poured my heartbreak, my dreams, my identity into it. I showed the script to my friend Jess in confidence. She was also making movies, and I trusted her eyes. She gave notes, I revised, and I believed we were collaborators in spirit. A few months later, I saw her name on a festival poster, and beneath it, the title of my film. Same plot, same setting. My characters' names tweaked, but I knew what was mine. I confronted her. She said, "Your film was perfect. Who wouldn't want to run with that? I gave you notes, so it's partly yours." I tried to justify it. Art is collaboration, ideas are shared, but it hurt to see my soul on someone else's billboard. Jess never apologized. She just moved forward. A part of me died that day. I learned you can pour your heart into something, only to watch it be taken, polished, and passed off as someone else's truth. And sometimes you can't reclaim what was never yours, once given away. My grandmother raised me. Proud, regal, stoic. I always thought I knew her story. Grew up poor in a coal town, married my grandfather at 17, devoted decades to family. She rarely spoke of her past. At 25, I convinced her to let me digitize old letters and photos. As I sorted through her attic boxes one rainy afternoon, I found something unexpected. A folder marked, "Do not open." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were faded letters, love letters from another man, dated before and after she married my grandfather. There were black and white photos of them laughing, fishing, sitting at diners. And the most shocking, a photograph dated 2 years after my grandmother's wedding, tinted with the question mark of pregnancy. I confronted her that same night. She sat quietly in her rocking chair. Finally, she whispered, "Yes, his name was Thomas. I was never in love with your grandfather. But divorce would have destroyed your family. I chose stability." My heart broke in 2 places. For the man she loved and lost, and for the life my family understood as her truth. Her love letters ended with a note of regret and betrayal. For herself. For her husband. For me. The unforgivable act wasn't her affair. It was her decision to build 50 years of marriage on a foundation of silence. I forgave her eventual regret. But not the years of denied truth, the hidden emotions that shaped my mother, and again, shaped me. Some betrayals aren't loud. They echo quietly through generations. I was best man at my older brother's wedding. I rehearsed my speech for weeks. He was my hero, and this was my chance to show it. On the big night, I stepped up, heart pounding, and gave the speech I'd poured my soul into. But when I sat down, 2 things happened at once. My bride's cousin stood and thanked me for saving their family from drama I'd never signed up for. My brother, holding the mic, said with a smile, "And thanks to Tom for keeping the who's dating who rumors from going public." I didn't know what he meant until I saw his bride shoot me a look full of betrayal. Weeks later, I found out, when we were kids, I had borrowed an old family photo album to school and shown it around. My brother's entire childhood embarrassment, a time his braces made him lisp, a diaper photo incident, had been spread among kids and mocked. He'd held on to it, only forgiving me when he realized he'd lost control over the narrative, but not the love. He'd never told me, or thanked me. He protected himself in front of everyone, forcing me into the shadow of a mistake, a betrayal that cut deeper than any apology ever could. I dated Mark for 3 years. We had a comfortable routine, weekend road trips, inside jokes. I trusted him completely, until one day I found it all was built on a lie. On his old laptop, I stumbled upon chat logs with a woman named Emily. There were months of back and forth, emotional confession, late-night calls. It wasn't just a fling. They had plans to move abroad together once we settled down. He told me she was just a work friend. He lied so many times about her I lost count. I confronted him. He said, "I didn't want you to overreact. You've been anxious." That moment, I realized something irreversible. I wasn't enough. Not for the life he built in my mind, not for the future he planned with someone else. Maybe worst of all, he thought his betrayal was for my good. I left that night, with only a backpack. Months later, I still cringe at quiet evenings, empty spaces where it all happened. Forgiveness didn't feel possible, not because I'm spiteful, but because betrayal can sever trust so completely, it rewires your heartbeat. I met Carla my sophomore year of college. She was the perfect friend. Funny, adventurous, always ready for late-night drives and deep conversations. We promised we'd be inseparable. I believed her. When my aunt died suddenly, I was devastated. Carla was the only person I told everything to. The funeral plans, my paperwork struggles, my breakdowns. She stayed by my side when others drifted away. A few weeks later, I got a message from someone I barely knew. "Hey, saw your aunt on Facebook. Tough loss?" I was confused. I hadn't posted anything. I asked Carla, and she admitted she'd posted about my grief without asking me. It wasn't just that she broke my trust. She used my pain for her own likes and sympathy. Worse, she didn't think it was a big deal. "People care," she'd said. It helped me through a hard time, too. She had weaponized my trauma. I never spoke to her again. I realized then that true friendship doesn't seek validation from your vulnerability. It protects it. And she never understood the difference. I grew up in a household where conflict was silent. When my older sister Jessica hurt me by making fun of my anxiety in front of my friends, the pain cut deep. I left school that day and cried, trembling. She followed me to my bedroom, looked at me and sneered. "Get over it. You're pathetic." That night I felt small, embarrassed, erased. My parents didn't intervene. For years I held on to the pain, expecting apologies at birthdays, family dinners, whenever we least expected it. But none came. Jessica acted like nothing had happened. 10 years later, I approached her at Christmas. I spoke with trembling words, hoping for honesty. She sighed. "I don't remember it like that," she said flatly. "You always overreact." That honesty felt like salt on a wound. The most brutal betrayal wasn't the incident. It was the denial, limping over truth. To this day, we don't speak. Some wrongs don't need reenactment. They need acknowledgement. Absence of truth is permission for erasure.